Do you ever walk away from a conversation replaying one specific sentence in your mind, convinced you know exactly what the other person meant, even though they never actually said it? Maybe a friend's neutral comment suddenly feels like criticism, or a colleague's silence feels like disapproval, or a partner's quick glance feels like rejection. And the strange part is, the emotion feels real, the certainty feels real. Your brain confidently tells you, I know what happened, I know what they meant. But what if that certainty is an illusion? What if your brain is acting less like an objective witness and more like a detective who desperately wants to close the case, even if it means inventing evidence? In this video, we're going to explore one of the most misunderstood psychological processes, how your mind fabricates versions of events that never actually happened. Not because you're dramatic or paranoid, but because your brain is designed to fill in gaps, protect you from threat, and preserve your identity, often at the cost of accuracy. Today, you'll learn why your mind jumps to conclusions even when you logically know you shouldn't, how internal schemas distort reality, and most importantly, the tools to help you step out of these false narratives so you can see situations more clearly, respond more calmly, and stop exhausting yourself with imagined threats. Let's begin with something essential. Your brain hates uncertainty. It hates it so much that it would rather create a wrong explanation than sit in "I don't know." Imagine you text someone something vulnerable and they don't respond for hours. Immediately, your inner detective gets to work. They're annoyed. I said something wrong. They're losing interest. I knew I shouldn't have shared that. Before you realize it, the inner detective has built a whole case file containing tone of voice, facial expressions, past experiences, and emotional memories, all carefully stitched together into a convincing story. But here's the truth. The brain doesn't build stories from facts, it builds stories from patterns. And those patterns are rooted in your past, not the present. That's the first major insight. Your interpretation of events says more about you, your fears, your expectations, your memories, than about the event itself. The brain uses schemas, which are mental shortcuts created from previous experiences. These schemas help you navigate the world efficiently, but they also distort it. For example, if you grew up in an environment where mistakes were punished, your brain may develop a schema that says, silence equals danger. So when someone pauses before replying to you, your brain automatically links the pause to rejection or anger. It's not conscious, it's not malicious, it's simply pattern matching gone wrong. Think of your mind like a detective arriving at a crime scene with missing evidence. Instead of waiting for clarity, the detective feels pressured to deliver a story quickly. And in the absence of facts, it turns to imagination. In real life, this happens constantly. A coworker looks away during a meeting. The detective whispers, they think you're incompetent. Your partner sighs while cooking. You're the problem. A friend forgets to invite you somewhere. You're being replaced. The detective doesn't just interpret information. It fabricates motives, inserts emotional tones, and rewrites intentions. This is why two people can experience the exact same moment and walk away with completely different stories. Not because one is right and one is wrong, but because they're watching two different mental films. Why does this happen? Let's break down the main psychological forces behind these invented narratives. First, prediction machinery. The brain's primary job is not to analyze but to predict. It constantly tries to guess what will happen next based on past patterns. That means your interpretations of others are often just predictions wearing the costume of certainty. Second, emotional memory. Your emotional wounds are lenses. If someone once made you feel unimportant, your brain becomes hypersensitive to any sign of dismissal. It's not the current person you're reacting to, it's the emotional echo of someone from your past. Third, cognitive biases. Confirmation bias makes you notice only the details that support your fear. Mind-reading bias convinces you that you know what others think. Catastrophizing magnifies small clues into huge threats. Fourth, protective narratives. Sometimes your brain invents a false story as a defense mechanism. It's easier to believe they must hate me than to sit in the discomfort of uncertainty. It gives you the illusion of control. Here's a fascinating example from neuroscience. When the brain lacks information, the same neural networks responsible for imagination activate to fill the gaps. Meaning sometimes your emotional memories of what happened are not memories at all, they're reconstructions. Your mind is replaying an event that it partially invented. This can happen in relationships, at work, in daily communication, even in how you perceive your own worth. And the more anxious or stressed you are, the faster and more confidently the detective takes over. Stress tightens your interpretations. Anxiety accelerates the narrative. Past wounds color the script. Before you know it, you're interpreting a neutral expression as contempt or reading a short message as rejection. The danger is not that you have these thoughts. The danger is that your brain convinces you they are facts. So how do you stop your mind from playing detective and start seeing reality more clearly? The first step is recognizing the earliest signal, emotional certainty without evidence. Anytime you feel a sudden surge of certainty, I know what they meant, I know what they think, I know why they did that, check if the certainty is emotional rather than factual. Emotional certainty feels urgent, tight, fast, and heavy. Factual certainty feels calm and grounded. This difference matters because emotional certainty is your brain's way of saying, I'm filling in the gaps. The second step is learning to spot your personal story templates. Every person has a few predictable narratives they fall back into during stress. Common templates include, I'm being judged, I'm being abandoned, I'm disappointing others, people are annoyed with me, I'm not enough. Once you recognize your template, you can catch the lie early. It becomes easier to say, this is my old story again, not reality. The third step is a powerful tool called the evidence check. Ask yourself, what did they actually say? What did I actually observe? What am I assuming? Many people discover that 90% of their emotional reaction comes from assumptions. For example, someone sends a short reply, okay. Your brain writes, they're cold, they're angry, they're dismissive. But the only observable fact is, they wrote okay. Everything else is a projection. This simple distinction can dismantle an entire emotional spiral. The fourth step is slowing down the internal detective. You do this by interrupting the urgency. Instead of jumping to a conclusion, ask, what are 3 alternative explanations? Maybe they're tired, maybe they're stressed, maybe they're distracted. Maybe it has nothing to do with you. Your brain won't automatically believe the alternatives, but it will loosen its grip on the imagined story. And when the grip loosens, clarity returns. This leads us to the 5th step, using the present moment reset. When your mind jumps to conclusions, it's living in prediction mode, not observation mode. To return to reality, gently direct your attention back to sensory experience. What do you see right now? What do you hear? What do you feel physically? This anchors you in what is happening, not what your detective is constructing. I'll continue in the next part. When you reconnect to sensory reality, something powerful happens. The imagined version of the event loses its grip. The detective can only operate in the world of guesses, not in the world of direct observation. And the more you practice returning to what is actually happening, the more you weaken the mind's habit of creating emotional fictions. But there's another layer to this work, one that is deeper and more transformative. To truly escape the false narratives your brain generates, you need to understand not just the mechanics of the inner detective, but the motivations behind it. Your brain creates imagined stories for one core reason: protection. It believes that guessing a threat is safer than missing a threat. This is a survival mechanism. In prehistoric times, assuming danger kept you alive. But in modern life, the cost of false alarms is anxiety, conflict, emotional exhaustion, and broken communication. Your mind is not trying to hurt you, it's trying to keep you safe. But safety based on fantasy is not safety, it's self-sabotage. That's why the 6th step in this toolkit is learning to treat your inner detective with compassion, not hostility. When you notice your mind spiraling into assumptions, instead of saying stop overthinking, you can gently say, I see you're trying to protect me. This small shift disarms the emotional tension. The moment the detective feels seen, its intensity drops. Instead of fighting your mind, you're building trust with it. From that trust, clarity emerges. The 7th step is what we call the curiosity pivot. Curiosity is the antidote to assumption. Assumption closes the story. Curiosity opens it. When you ask yourself, what else could be true? Or, what information am I missing? You move out of the rigid posture of threat detection and into a softer, more flexible mindset. Curiosity reduces emotional stakes. It quiets the certainty. It creates space for alternative interpretations. And, crucially, it prepares you for healthier conversations with others. Which brings us to the 8th step, external verification. This is the moment where, instead of building an internal court case, you simply ask the person directly, not with accusation, not with defensiveness, but with clarity and openness. A simple phrase like, hey, earlier when you paused, I wasn't sure how to interpret it. Can you tell me what you were feeling in that moment? Can save hours of inner turmoil. Most people never do this because they fear the answer will confirm their worst story. But in reality, direct clarification almost always brings relief. You learn that the coworker wasn't angry, just distracted. The partner wasn't annoyed, just tired. The friend didn't exclude you, just forgot. The mind fills the silence with threat. Real conversation replaces that threat with truth. The ninth step is building tolerance for ambiguity. This may be the most powerful psychological skill you can develop if you want to reduce emotional suffering. Ambiguity tolerance means being able to sit with incomplete information without rushing to conclusions. It means allowing yourself to say, "I don't know yet," without feeling the need to invent answers. It means understanding that not every pause is rejection, not every silence is judgment, not every short message is anger. You are training your nervous system to stop equating uncertainty with danger. And that, over time, dismantles the old schemas that once distorted your perception. The 10th and final step ties everything together, rewriting your internal narrative style. You are not just changing individual thoughts. You are changing the entire way your mind constructs meaning. Instead of "they ignored me," your new narrative becomes, "I don't yet know what their silence means, and I don't have to decide immediately." Instead of "they must be disappointed in me," you train yourself to say, "I'm noticing fear, not facts." Instead of "I know what they thought," you learn to say, "I know what I felt, and that's different." These subtle shifts create a profound change. They move you from reactive storytelling to reflective awareness. And here's something important to remember. You are not trying to eliminate the detective. You are trying to make it more honest, more accurate, less driven by fear, more guided by awareness. The goal is not to silence your interpretations, but to transform them from automatic reactions into conscious reflections. Over time, you become someone who communicates more clearly, responds more calmly, and carries far less emotional tension. You stop jumping to conclusions and start giving yourself the time and space to understand what is actually happening. Your relationships become less volatile, your inner life becomes less chaotic, and your sense of self becomes grounded in reality rather than fear. By learning to recognize when your brain is creating a story, questioning that story, and replacing it with curiosity and clarity, you're doing more than improving your communication. You're reclaiming your peace. You're giving yourself the freedom to live in the world as it is, not as your fears imagine it. And that is one of the most liberating psychological shifts a person can make. If this video helped you understand even a little more about your mind's hidden storytelling engine and gave you tools to create clearer, calmer interpretations, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to Mind Unlocked. Every episode is designed as a toolkit for better thinking, deeper self-understanding, and a more grounded way of experiencing your inner and outer world, so you can see reality not through old fears, but through your own authentic and steady mind.